Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Practice on Air, episode number 27. Today, we're going to be talking about overcoming adversity. Welcome once again, everybody, to the Power of Practice on Air. I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls. I'm an author, speaker, a mindset mastery coach, and I'm the founder of Interstate Coaching, where I help visionary leaders to create radical change in the world by first creating radical change in themselves. So you can learn more about me and my services by visiting www.interstatecoaching.com while you're there. Also, go ahead and pick up my free report on the 5-step practice for creating radical change in your life. So in my 20 years as a coach, it's become very, very clear to me that creating radical change, whether it's in your health, your wealth, your happiness, any part of your life, it's not about doing certain things. Rather, it's about doing things in a certain way, which, of course, requires just a little bit of practice. So in this 20-minute show, I interview guest experts from across the world on a wide range of topics and in a wide range of fields, from health and personal development to business and spirituality and everything else in between. And I ask them all the very same question, that one question, which is, what one practice can you share with us that can create a radical breakthrough in our health, in our wealth, or in our happiness? And it's through these practices that you, the viewers, can turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So once again, everybody, thank you for joining us here live. If you are joining us live, be sure to post your comments below this video, below this hangout. Let us know what you're thinking on this topic. And, you know, we are Google Hangouts, so you can do this in replay as well. Go ahead, post your comments, post your questions that you might have for myself or my guest, Warren Broad, and we'll be sure to interact with you, to engage with you. So, have you ever felt like, or have you ever had the, you know what, hit the fan in your life? I think most of us have. At some point or another, if you're a human being, things just happen in life. It might be in your finances. It might be in your relationships. It could be in any area of your life. But the trick is really, how do we deal with adversity when it pops up in our life? Now, most of us don't learn the skills, we don't get the resources and the tools in order to do that when we're kids. We end up going through our adult life not really having those tools and resources, and that's why I'm really happy to bring back, actually for a second time to the show, my guest Warren Broad, who is a clinical hypnotherapist. He's a marriage and family therapist, a counselor, and a life coach who lives in Canada, the other USA, I like to say, because Canadians are the nicest Americans I've ever met. Hey, Warren, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Power of Practice. It's been a while since I've had you on the show. Oh, we have a little delay in time there. Can you hear me, Warren?
Happy to be here and hear you. Do you hear me okay?
Gotcha. Yep, you're on.
Good, good. Yeah, so happy to be here, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, you were on last year. I think it was at the end of last year, and we talked a bit about meditation. I think at that time you were still writing a book that we're going to be talking about at the end of the show today. But you've had a lot going on, and I'm sure that just in writing a book, there's a little bit of some ups and downs and things that hit the fan. But let's sort of look at this idea of adversity and dealing with adversity.
Well, absolutely. We like you said in your introduction, we all face adversity, and we face it on a regular basis. There are the small adversities in life, and then there are the much larger hurdles to overcome. And really, in what you do and what I do is do our best to help people find the methods and the tools that will help them get without staying there for a really long time. because that is something I'm sure you see as well, where people end up in a situation of feeling stuck or overwhelmed. Overwhelm is something I see a lot in my practice, where the you know what has hit the fan, and perhaps it's hit the fan multiple times in perhaps a short period of time, and that is often what leads us to overwhelm, and often when we've hit that first adversity, we're already a little bit shocked, and then if another adversity hits us, this is where we can really end up in overwhelm, and things like depression or anxiety start to become more pervasive in the person's life.
Yeah, and I can imagine, like you said, you go through one big upset, like maybe a layoff or something that happens with your job or financially that might happen to you, and it's like, okay, I'm just barely getting my feet back underneath me here, and then you get hit with another one, like a loved one dies. I mean, you hear these things all the time, and you're in clinical practice, so I'm sure you see it even more than I do. But there seems to be, from what I'm seeing, it's interesting, the clients that I work with, this is becoming, I don't know if this is like a new thing or what, but I see this happening a lot where people are hit with multiple things, one right after the other. It's like, oh my God, seriously? I mean, yeah, so having the tools, the skills to be able to do that is critical during those times.
Yeah, and I think it's an age bracket thing as well. I'm not going to mention your age or my age, but I think that the viewers can tell approximately what age we are, and this is when more adversities tend to show up. Parents pass away, and even we start to have ailments that didn't that weren't present in our these things on each other, and if we're not really active on a regular basis in trying to maintain proper mindset and stay focused on what is going to bring us through those things, people can end up in pretty dire straits.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that it is an age-related thing. So think about, okay, yeah, parents getting older, your kids, you're dealing with, well, you and I have tweens, right? That's when so health issues you have with people, financial issues, and job changes. So yeah, it would be good, I think, if we were taught some of the skills, earlier in life, like as teenagers, with how to deal with adversity and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about your book and about some of, well, we want to get to a practice, which I know you're going to share a really great practice that's actually in the book. But let's talk a little bit more for a moment just about the book, which I love, by the way, the title of the book, which is It's the Landing That Counts. Absolutely true. You're going to flip all over the place in the middle, right? But it's the landing that counts. So, yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit more.
Well, you actually, I think, inadvertently drew on a couple of examples that we illustrate in the book. One of the things is the book is written in a style where my co-author and I, we use our life experiences to illustrate the ways to overcome these things. And my co-author, Margot McAuliffe, examples she gives is a massive turn of events that happened in her career, where she was let go from a very high level position, and there was some shame, and there was a lot of turmoil that she went through. And we've talked about relating, and I talk more clinically in some areas, but also in my own life experience with close ones passing away and addiction and things of that kind. And we use these points so that the reader really understands that not only do we get it, but also that we're not doing this in a bit of a static environment. Some of the books that are written about these things don't really give very direct life examples. And we really tried to make sure that the readers really got a sense that they were getting an inside view on how we managed some very universal things that happen in almost everybody's life at some point, whether that's a marriage breakup or whether it's the passing of a family member or something of that kind. So we create a method. Each chapter is a sequence in bringing individuals through the turmoil that they, or the life experience, the trauma that they might have experienced, and how they move through that in a real step-by-step manner.
It's interesting because I don't know if it's interesting or not interesting, but I have my own version of this being hit several, one thing after the other, and it was a period for me that, as I look back now on it, was a period where I was going through huge transformation and huge growth for myself, where I went through a divorce. I then all the stuff that was happening with the economy started happening in 2008. I lost basically all of my work, and then I ended up owing $25,000 to the IRS after I then was making $0 per month, month after month after month. Then my housing, I was like, where am I going to live? I'm a single mom. I'm like, all of these things like that were, like you're saying, just one thing where I was like, are you kidding me? Because I was then in a situation, which I'm sure many people listening and viewing can relate to, is what I consider the pillars of our life, which are our health, our money, our relationships, the basic needs that we have. When you have most of those ripped out from underneath you, or at least it feels like that, what do you do? I mean, I know how I got through it, but damn, it was dark and it was lonely. Like, it can feel really, really lonely. You talked in the beginning about feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. I felt those, and I felt totally alone in the process of it.
That's a really good point, Lisa, is that, one of the things that I see in mental health a lot is when individuals are struck down by a series of life events like the ones that you went through, or if they've been battling anxiety and depression sort of on and off for a very long time, one of the biggest issues that all individuals go through is that sense of loneliness, and the sense that that the situation that they're going through is unique. And although the particulars of that situation will be unique to that person, the methods for moving out of it aren't. There are some great strategies out there for managing these things. And although we feel very alone, the methods to coming out of that can be actually pretty generic. Being that these core principles of gratitude and understanding internal dialogue, which is actually something we spend a lot of time on knowing the difference between what is real and what your mind is telling you, because really what our mind tells us often is wrong. It just is straight out wrong and often self-defeating. That perhaps we were responsible in some way for this decline, or there's a lot of things, and we actually have a label for it, which is called NST, which is negative self-talk. And we all have it. There's not an individual that walks the planet that doesn't have negative internal dialogue. The main difference between somebody who is successful and someone who's not, or moves out of that free fall that we talk about, is how they perceive that internal dialogue and what they do with it.
Yeah, all about that perception, totally. And I love how you say that we each, when we're in that, we feel like our experience is unique, but the tools that we use to get us out of the experience aren't necessarily unique. There's a generic, as you were saying, sort of set of tools. One of the things that helped me when I was getting through that was a perception, as you're talking about, we need to change how we perceive, and the perception that I chose was that, well, one of the perceptions that I chose was that even though I feel alone in all this, and like there's nobody who could possibly understand how hard this is, that it's more of an archetype of a story that I really resonate with the hero's journey. So I recognized it as, okay,
yeah,
there's a collective experience here. Lots of people have gone through divorce, lots of people have lost their jobs and all their money, lots of people have lost their houses, so I'm not the only one who's like, and you get that, but what that did for me in changing that perspective was it made me feel like I wasn't a bad person, or at least it gave me a little step up of, well, maybe there's not like totally something drastically wrong with me. Like it got me a little bit out of that place of self-deprecation and victimization. But that's just not what we're going to be talking about, I know, for your practice, but I'm just relating my experience of and totally relating to how you speak of it. So I love it.
You've illustrated that well, Lisa. As you know, it really is about understanding what parts of this dialogue that you can break through. And we offer some really direct methods for understanding what negative dialogue is, when it's skewed the right way and when it's skewed the wrong way. I mean, all negative dialogue is negative, but
Right.
there's ways to alter that, and it's sometimes it's very small shifts that if we're persistent with them.
Yes.
That begin to create much better dialogue.
And that's the practice, right? Those small shifts that if we're persistent, to me, when you say if we're persistent, that means if we're willing to be committed to a practice of being aware of those shifts and doing those shifts over and over again on a regular basis. So, yeah, I know you want to share one of the practices that I think is going to be really great here for our audience today, and this is something that is just one little piece, I know, of something much bigger within the book. And so can you share with us what that practice is?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's actually something that I've been implementing more in my own life, and sometimes we need to follow what we preach, and there's the name of this practice is called active gratitude, and the difference between what I would consider active gratitude or passive gratitude is that there are many people who make reference to needing to do a gratitude journal, or think in the morning of 3 things that you're grateful for, and we tend to get lazy with that, and I personally had gotten lazy with that. Is that I'd think of 3 easy things that I was grateful for, and I'd quickly move on with my day.
My dog, my husband, and I got a
Exactly.
good night of sleep.
Yeah, and that has some strength. It's not bad to do that, but in clinical hypnosis and in NLP and is one of the ways that we can make this much more powerful is to perhaps shorten the list a little bit. If somebody thinks that they've got to think of 10 things that they're grateful for, rather than thinking of 10 things that they are grateful for, 1 or 2 things that they are grateful for, but go beyond the surface level. So, to give an example, if I'm going to be grateful for my son, a surface level would just be, I'm grateful for my son. And then to take that deeper would be, well, what is it really about my son that makes me grateful? Is it his smile, or is it, a unique laugh? And actually being able to, I suggest that this is done in a written format, that you write this down and you go into those deeper levels of what makes you grateful about the thing that you are grateful for. Mm-hmm. And what this actually does is it creates a higher level of intimacy and into gratitude itself. And what we've really seen, especially for example, in my hypnosis practice, is this is what we do in hypnosis, is we make it very real. And this fires much more serotonin. It fires a whole bunch more happiness and gratitude and the chemicals associated with that in the brain. And that actually creates a much deeper level of fulfillment and actual gratitude. And what I found with myself and with my clients is this travels much further through the day, that the gratitude that you created and the emotions that came from that will have a much longer and a much better result than doing that surface level gratitude.
Yeah, and wrapping it back into adversity when you're in the face of adversity. Well, actually, let me play devil's advocate for a second. What if you're in the face of adversity and you can't even find anything to be grateful for?
Well, sometimes that's a fake it till you make it. The interesting thing with and hypnosis and all of these and gratitude is that your mind really doesn't know the difference. And if you decide, I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes this morning, and maybe maybe it's the trees that are outside, or it's fresh air, or I'm a firm believer that we can always find something, and just the fact that we're not in a war-torn country, that bombs don't land in our backyards, and that there is always something. And sometimes we have to face it or fake it, even if it's not coming to the forefront easily. We can find something, and then spending that time in the active portion of it, we can make this real, and we can shift. That perhaps that negative state of mind that you may have woken up with.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, we can find it. Whether you can or you can't is just a matter of perception. It's a choice that you can't find something to be grateful for. It's a choice that you can find something to be grateful for. And when you recognize, oh, I'm making a choice, that's all that self-awareness piece that you were talking about before. So I absolutely agree with you that we can find something, and yeah, sometimes you do have to fake it till you make it, but there is something if you are open and willing to change your perception to it.
Absolutely. And one of the things I tell my is, it may fight you on it, and often the mind wants to stay stuck often, and it kind of likes the poor me mentality, because it's very self-centered. But when we move outside of ourselves and we find that source of gratitude, no matter how simple, a big shift in the brain. And there's been more and more study done on how that actually shifts mental health, it shifts physical health, and there's nothing bad that that is going to come from finding active gratitude.
And you said it's such a good reminder, the gratitude piece. We've all heard it before, oh, gratitude journals and gratitude this and gratitude that. But honestly, like you said, Warren, not we all know it. I don't want to make the blanket statement, but most of us know this idea of gratitude. But do we really practice it? And then do we really practice it actively with conscious intention in the way that we're practicing our gratitude? So I love the reminder that you give, and what an easy practice to implement into our lives on a daily basis, on a regular basis, even while you're driving in your car. I mean, you can do it anytime, anywhere. So
you can do it anytime, anywhere. But one thing I do suggest, and that I've seen, I've seen the results of it already, even in a couple weeks of actively doing it myself, is if this is done first thing in the morning, what I drew this from a book that I've been reading recently. You're setting an intention, and when you don't allow yourself to jump into the email or watch that negative morning news or any of that, and you spend that 5 to 15 minutes in the morning writing down what you are actively, you are setting a vibration, and you're setting a pattern right away in your mind. And not that we shouldn't practice gratitude of the day, but there is a real strength in doing this before anything else has come into your life, because it's so easy to just get sidetracked by somebody's negative email or some work thing, or and when we set that first thing in the morning, we're creating of awareness that actually, I think, most of us know, like thoughts get like thoughts. So if we start out with this positive state of mind, we're setting that intention for the rest of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pulling together or tying up the show here, and I would love for you to let people know where they can find your book. Yeah,
absolutely. They can find the book at www.itsthelandingthatcounts.com. That is the web page for the book. The book can be ordered there. And also another free gift that I can give to your audience, Lisa, is on the main page of the book website. We also have a little mini course. If somebody has just experienced something in their lives, we have a mini course that is called From Free Fall to Freedom. And for 7 days, they will receive content. Some of it is directly out of the book, and some of it is content that my co-author and I have created. And every day they will be given a free practice, and they'll be given a free a method for helping them through whatever they're going through at that time. And one thing that they get as well is they get a free meditation that I've recorded that helps create that state of mind. So it's great value.
Great. And you know what we'll do, Warren, as well as for all the viewers, we will be sure to put that link into the description of this event so that everybody can just click on that link and go straight to the page to get the book and get all of these other little freebie gifts that you have to offer. And thank you so much, Warren, for visiting the Power of Practice. Once again, we have to have you here more often, actually.
Thanks, Lisa. It's great being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to all of you who were able to come live and view our show, The Power of Practice, and those of you who are watching in replay, remember that we'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to engage with you. So you can leave those comments right below the video here, and we'll get back to you on those. So it is my belief that each one of us is capable of radical transformation and of achieving quantum breakthroughs in our health, in our wealth, and in our happiness. It's just that sometimes we don't have the tools and the resources that we need in order to do that. And that's really what this show is all about, is to give you those tools so that you can turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And as a final reminder, as we're closing out the show here, you can visit me as well at www.innerstatecoaching.com while you're there. You can also pick up my free report, The 5 Steps to Creating a Radical Breakthrough in Your Life. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of The Power of Practice, and we'll see you all next time.